Viking Update Show. This is your draft review. John Krawczynski from The Athletic is on. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. If you like this show, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. Do this. Go to the website, TalkNorth.com. You see Mark Rosen. You see Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL Insider. You see John Krawczynski show on the Wolves, who are hot right now, of course. We have Randy Shaver, Don Mitchell. Mark Rosen has been a great addition for us. Check out all of our shows there, including Chin Music, Lavelle, Roy Smalley, and myself. And again, everything's at TalkNorth.com, and subscribing is the best way to listen. We're presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and OnX Hunt. We'll tell you more about them later. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. All right, let's get into it. The Vikings have obvious defensive needs in the draft. They take a guard and a wide receiver with the 2 first picks. They also get a tight end, and they trade for the backup quarterback in Sam Howell. I think Kevin O'Connell runs the draft.
I think that might be fair to say, Jim. Yeah, there's certainly an offensive bent to it. And, you know, we can get into it, but they did when they grabbed Donovan Jackson in the first round, there were a couple of defensive guys there that were certainly worth consideration, as well. So, we both know that at the end of last season that Kevin O'Connell's comments about the offensive line were certainly at the front of his mind. And for them to go with Donovan Jackson right away and then go offense in with their 3rd round pick, and then who knows when you get into the 5th and 6th round, you know, how things are going. But their 2 top draft capital picks were offense, and then to get Sam Howell as well. They were certainly prioritizing getting the final boxes checked on the offensive side of the ball, maybe versus what they still need to do defensively.
Yeah. And I think, you know, to try to read minds here and parse comments, I feel like what Kevin O'Connell has discovered is if you have a great defensive coordinator and you have a lot of versatile defenders, you can find different ways to have your defense work. And this kind of reminds me back when Denny Green, you know, wanted to build a high power passing offense and a big play offense. And he kind of let Tony Dungy just kind of, you know, figure it out on defense. And Tony usually did. And I think Kevin has realized that it's harder to cover up a weakness in the interior offensive line than it is to cover up a maybe not having quite the best group of cornerbacks or safeties.
Yeah. And, you know, in a way, Jim, I was thinking about this too. It's almost like Brian Flores's talent is working against him,
right? A
little bit, right? Like he has already proven that he can take players who maybe aren't necessarily highly thought of. Maybe, you know, you would think that there are holes in the defense given how the personnel is laid out, and he can make more out of it, you know, chicken soup out of chicken bleep, right? And so, you know, it is, in some ways, it is an expression of faith that Brian Flores will be inventive enough, creative enough, smart enough to use what he has and make it work, because he did it last year to great effect. And so, I'm sure that, you know, in his heart of hearts, Flores would like to, you know, wish they would have, you know, grabbed a cornerback first and, you know, and an interior defensive lineman next and just kind of load up that way. But he has already proven that he can do more with less. And so, I think that, like Brian Flores, don't be as good as at your job, and maybe you'll get more draft picks coming your way next time.
And a few wrinkles here too. Kind of players he has, you know, at safety and backup cornerback could have more faith in those guys than we realize. You know, they signed Theo Jackson to a long-term deal. They don't do that unless they really think he's going to be a good player. You know, Mekhi Blackman has had some injuries, but I think they really like him. And Jay Ward, maybe maybe they have bigger plans for Jay Ward than we think. And maybe those 3 players made them confident enough in those positions that they, didn't feel like it was a desperate need. Also, they signed Gilmore really late in the process last year. They might be able to go, they still might, who knows, maybe they get Gilmore back or somebody like him. And they also have Josh Metellus, who can kind of, you know, they can move around and cover up different spots.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, kind of similar to our conversations in the past about backup quarterback and, hey, you know, how they always seem to bring in guys that not all that excited about. And then all of a sudden, then they step in and play really well. I mean, did we really know Cam Bynum before he got,
nope,
his opportunity? Did we know Josh Metellus was going to be what he was before he got his opportunity? And so at a certain point, you do sort of put some faith in the Vikings talent evaluation and player development processes, because they have borne fruit over, several years here. And so, yeah, you're right. Maybe maybe it's just the next guys up, and maybe they will be difference makers, just like the guys that they were replacing. I will say though, Jim, I still am a little concerned just at the depth in the secondary. Like, if someone gets hurt, what's going to happen? And who knows? Maybe they'll trade for Sauce Gardner tomorrow. I don't know. But I just think that I would like to see more numbers in that position group, especially. But your point is well taken. Like, they have developed the talent, and they have put people in place to succeed before. And so I think they deserve a little bit of the benefit of the doubt this time around with the next iteration here.
Also, I wasn't sure Harrison Smith should come back or would come back. He did come back, and now it looks like it really freed them up to use assets elsewhere, because they have one of the safety positions held down.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. If had Harrison Smith retired, that does change, your outlook and what you do. Maybe they bring Bynum back if that was going to happen, or maybe they target safety in the draft, higher up with that first or third pick, and do something that way. But having Harrison Smith back is a big plus. You just do hope that he has one more really good year in him. He keeps himself in remarkable shape. He's one of the smartest players that I've ever seen. So all of the kind of indicators are that he will be a good player next year, but you just never know as he gets a little bit older. Injuries can come up. You can slow down a little bit. So hopefully they have one more really good season of Harrison Smith, because they really do need it now, just given everything else that's gone on at that position.
We're talking here on Monday morning. John and I were at Game 4 of the Wolves-Lakers series on Sunday night. We sit in that kind of corner media area. So we were basically right behind Dave St. Peter, former Twins president, was there hanging out. We were right behind Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Kevin O'Connell was sitting in the front row as well. Kwesi actually came up and said hello to myself and Dave Campbell. Very, very nice of him to do so. I got to put this out there because I know Kwesi listens to the show and gets many tips from this show.
Yes.
Kwesi came up and he said something funny to me. And as I tried to say something clever and funny back to him, there was like a roar and his face kind of fell a little bit. I hope he didn't mishear what I said. Listen, I think what I said wasn't that funny, but I was an attempt at humor, but I hope he didn't mishear me, because Kwesi, I was not insulting you. I was trying to say something funny. And it was very nice of you to come say hello to us. So just, again, since I know Kwesi listens to this every week, I wanted to use this as a direct line to him.
Big fan of the show. Yeah. I will say, I saw him and, was wearing the old school Timberwolves cap, looking smooth. Like he knows how to dress. He's got style. And he was sitting right in the front row, and he was into the game. Like, that was cool. Like, he's not from here. To see, you could see, like, the atmosphere of the game was so intense, and you see these highly competitive people. And I know that Kwesi has a good relationship with Tim Connolly. They've talked a lot, over the years here and stuff. And so I think there is a nice little kinship developing between the front offices of the Wolves and the Vikings, that I really, probably the Twins and the Wild as well. But, it was kind of neat to watch, like, in some of the big moments, like Kwesi was up out of his chair and getting into it. And, maybe a little relief after the long draft process is over. You can kind of chill out for a minute and have some fun. And, it was cool to see both him and KOC there for sure.
It was, tell you what else is great, to be supported by many of the listeners that have supported this network, and some of the sponsors have come on board. Let's start with Giggly THC beverages. I drink them all the time. I love cocktails, but I don't always love the way I feel the morning after cocktails. So I'm pretty cautious about that when I have a big day ahead, have to be up early, do a podcast or write a column. So I love Giggly THC beverages. I can drink them with no regrets. I wake up feeling really good. Sometimes I think I even sleep better because I had them. You can get 10 milligrams of THC or 5. I usually go for the 5. All kinds of great tasting cocktails, all kinds of great tasting teas, seltzers. You can find them in Quick Trip. This is a Minnesota business. You can find them in Quick Trips across the state. You can find them in most grocery stores and liquor stores these days. You can also go to Giggly.com, Gigli.com. Use a promo code Giggly North to get 50% off your first order. I've already used my promo code and my refrigerator stocked. I recommend you do the same. Also want to ask you, have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that? Or maybe you need to know exactly where property line runs. That's where Onyx Hunt comes in. It's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country, from farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property. This app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started. Thanks also to Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. They say knowledge is power, and power is having a great plumber and electrician on speed dial. Enter Aquarius Home Services. Whether your toilet's bubbling like a science experiment or your lights are blinking like a strobe light, we have you covered. Plus, get $98 off any electrical or plumbing repair. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com and let the experts handle the chaos. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
All right, let's get a little more into the draft. They take a guard from Ohio State. It felt like in the last week of draft speculation, the safety from South Carolina became the popular pick. I will give Mel Kiper credit. He got the Donovan Jackson pick correctly. I think there were other guards they liked that, didn't fall to them. They took the best guard on the board. I actually predicted that the day before when I was doing radio hits. I thought they were invested in making sure they had a powerhouse offensive line. Now they have two standout veterans at guard and center. They have a rookie who's 315 pounds, who's played tackle, who's a good pass protector, should be a good run blocker at 315 pounds. They have great bookend tackles. They have a great blocking tight end in Josh Oliver. They have a great receiving tight end in Hawkinson. They add, Felton, who now he might compete to be the third receiver. He might be Jordan Addison's eventual successor if they don't give Jordan a second contract. He might compete with Naylor to be the third receiver. It just might be a good speed receiver to add. Man, between all that and adding a power runner in Jordan Mason to this offense could be fascinating.
Absolutely. So much of it obviously hinges on, is JJ McCarthy ready to really take this on and be the quarterback that they need him to be? But I think one of the many reasons that the Vikings did go heavy offense at the top of their draft with the first and third picks was to maximize McCarthy's sort of on-ramp and to make it as easy as possible for him. And you add Jordan Mason, you add Donovan Jackson and Ty Felton, you add, more and more weapons and protection around McCarthy. They are really setting him up to succeed like as much as you possibly can. And so, I think with Jackson in particular, it was an interesting pick in terms of just me in general. I am not Mel Kiper, but I generally like it if you're drafting offensive or defensive line, if you're going from a power program like Ohio State, guy, plays for the national champion, slides from guard to tackle, and they don't miss a beat. I like that pedigree. As we get into Jackson specifically, Jim, I think it's interesting because talking to people about the pick, and also reading some of the analysis of the pick, I think that he was sort of projected to go a little bit lower in the draft. And what I know, and from what I understand, the other guy that I was looking at a lot right around that spot was Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan. And I think that there were teams around that had concerns about his knee, and that's what caused him to slide down the draft. But from what I understand, I think the Vikings had medically cleared Will Johnson. And so the health was not a factor for him when they were considering him when they were on the clock. And so when they ended up picking Jackson, I do not believe it necessarily was that Jackson was the best player available on their board. But there is such a priority in building this offense, strengthening the run game, strengthening them up front, getting JJ McCarthy in the best position possible to have a good season. There's such a priority on getting things around McCarthy right that they went and got Jackson. I don't have a problem with it, Jim, because I mean, I think that if you look at some projections, maybe Jackson was like high 30s instead of 24. Kwesi learned you don't want to get too cute in trading down sometimes if you really like a player. And so they ended up really liking Donovan Jackson and take him at 24. If you would have slid back to 33 and picked up a 5th round pick or something, maybe that would be okay, but maybe you would have lost him too. And so they clearly prioritized offensive line. And, even above, even if they had guys that might have been rated a little bit higher than him on their draft board, they just wanted to get that taken care of. And I'm never going to argue with the team prioritizing the guys up front and try and building that way.
And I think it's not a wow pick. It's probably a safe pick.
Yeah.
If you're 315 pounds, you're known to be a good pass protector. You've played both guard and tackle. You have high character, and you're going to be surrounded by really good veterans. It might not be a pick we look back and go, oh my God, they got this great steal. But I might guess at this moment, it's a pick we look back and go, okay, it made sense.
Yeah. I mean, look at what the Lions have done. You just look at what the Lions have done to build their team, right? They got super strong, on the offensive line. They got super strong on the defensive line, and they just became tougher. And I do think when you look at how the Vikings stack up against other teams, especially in this division, they needed to get tougher up front. They went out in free agency, bolstered it that way, but adding Donovan Jackson is another step in that direction. And especially with a young quarterback who's coming off an injury and kind of like learning the position and all of that, get as strong and get as talented with the guys in front of him as humanly possible so that he can come in and feel great about it.
Yes. All right. Let's get to more on the draft. Let's get to Howell. Let's get to Shooter Sanders, and the quarterback intrigue around this draft. We do want to have you hear from Talk North star Michael Russo. Check out Michael Russo's podcast, Worst Seat in the House, himself and Anthony LaPanta on the Wild playoff run. Here's Michael on clamshell beach resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
Personally, I want to tell you about Twill in the Dining Galleria. I went to the Wolves game on Sunday night, and I wore everything I wore. I got at Twill. And it's so comfortable. I'm shocked that I got to a point in my life where nice looking clothes are more comfortable for me than wear like a jeans and a flannel shirt or jeans and a sweatshirt, which used to be my pretty much my uniform everywhere I went. But man, the Dingman shoes I wore, I walk all over town in them. They're incredibly comfortable. They also look like they're shoes you can wear with a fine suit. The sweater I wore, the dress shirt I wore, the dress pants I wore, it's so comfortable. I'm so surprised by it, but it makes sense because Scott Dayton, owner and proprietor of Twill in Edina Galleria, he goes out and handpicks stuff, and he picks stuff that he wears, that he would want to wear, that he feels good about promoting. If you go to Twill in Edina Galleria, you will have the best shopping experience you've ever had because it's laid back. You can walk in there and talk sports. People are there to help you, but they are not ever going to be pushy. They just want you to have a good experience there. They want you to walk out with stuff that's going to last you. And you know what? Graduation's around the corner. What better gift for a young man who's looking to build a career than buying them clothes that they can go to job interviews in? Or you can just buy them golf stuff, which I also wear a lot of. So check out Twill in the Edina Galleria. Go to twillmn.com to look at all the different brands they have, high-end brands, all. And you can even sign up for email alerts. You only get one once every month or once every 2 months, just to let you know if they have a sale or an event. That's what I do. So check out Twill in the Edina Galleria. And thanks to Scott Dayton and the Twill staff. I also want to tell you about Natrium. There's a mothership store in St. Louis Park. I highly recommend going there and talking to the sales associates. They can steer you to what's going to help you. You might want to use their products, their THC or CBD products for sleep aids, for pain. You might want to take something that relaxes you. You might want to use the rub-on balms, the roll-on balms that are just go on without smelling badly or feeling sticky, and they work really quickly. You might want to have fun. You might want a really good drink. You might want the gummies or the candies or the dips. You might want the quick stress relief. I know people who use that if they have to give a presentation. It'll just kind of take the edge off. There's so many different ways it can help you. You can go to natrium.com and order anything you like. I also recommend at least once going to the shop in St. Louis Park and having them help you figure out what's going to work best for you. All right, let's get back to the draft here. The Shedeur Sanders story is fascinating because on top of the obvious stuff that he wasn't as highly rated as everybody thought he would be and that teams weren't as high on him, it's almost like the NFL is taking this opportunity to say, hey, you know, if you're not the greatest athlete in the world, you might want to be a little more accessible. You might want to show up for the combine. You might want to do more interviews. You might want to give us a reason to draft you.
It's really an interesting thing, Jim, because the quarterback position, I'm not shedding any light. I'm not making any profound statements. It's really important. And we have seen teams reach for players before for any number of reasons, just because they know how important it is and they're going to take a chance. And they didn't do that with Shedeur Sanders. And it seemed like there was a collective sort of decision. I'm not saying they conspired, but I'm just saying that every team in the league looked at what he put forth in the pre-draft process and said, we don't really want to be a part of this operation. I don't know why that happened necessarily. I mean, you heard about the interview process. You heard about the dad. Like I don't know that I buy that people were really worried about Dion to the extent of him being kind of a meddling parent. I just don't think that's realistic or reasonable. That said, what do you think about this, Jim? I heard someone saying that it's possible that if you draft Shedeur Sanders, you're a coach. You draft him. You're going to give him a chance to play. He's going to be, you're going to see if you can develop him to be your quarterback of the future. It doesn't go well. And then is there going to be immediate sort of pressure? Well, let's fire the coach and bring Dion in and be the coach. I don't know if that was a deterrent for some people, but it sure seems like Sanders had like one of the worst pre-draft lead-ups of, an athlete that I can remember, because he was good at Colorado. And then just like to fall to where he did, I can understand, third round, fourth round, maybe even, but man, all the way down is fifth round, right? In Cleveland. Like it just seemed like, that seems like a big plummet.
He fell to the fifth round and was the second quarterback taken by the Cleveland Browns. And there is speculation out there that, the Browns draft operators did not want him, and that the owner's buddies with Dion and said, hey, you got to take this guy. He's fallen too far. He's got to be a value. I do think there is kind of this, unwritten rule in the NFL. You don't want a celebrity number 2 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You have a celebrity number 2 quarterback, then every time your starter throws a bad pass, then everybody's looking at the backup quarterback asking why he's not in there. I do believe that NFL teams hate it when guys who aren't frontline players end up getting a lot of attention. Whether whether it's the Vikings getting rid of Chris Kluwe because he was always in the news, or whether it's the backup quarterback. Nobody wanted to touch Tim Tebow. Wasn't a good NFL quarterback, but he was better than some of the people in the league. But nobody wanted him as your backup because of the problems he caused. I think that's part of it. I will also say this. This could work out really well for Shooter Sanders. He's going to play for Kevin Stefanski, who's a great quarterbacks coach in a franchise that has no good quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson stinks. Joe Flacco's 84 years old. Kenny Pickett's with his third or fourth team. The third round pick is nobody's all excited about him. If Shooter Sanders is who we kind of thought he was, which is a very efficient, intelligent NFL quarterback, he could end up in a good spot.
He could, yeah. I mean, we don't like a little closer to home, but remember the Redskins drafted Robert Griffin III, and then they drafted Kirk Cousins later. And what happened? Like Cousins turned out to be a good quarterback and have a long career. If you look at, all of the alternatives for Shedeur Sanders when the board was falling the way it did, when he kept falling down, Cleveland is an ideal spot. They do have good skill position players. They have a really good coach in Kevin Stefanski. And and the opportunity is there. It will be, like, to build on your initial point, Jim, it will be interesting to see how all of that plays out in terms of the star power, because no one, I would imagine, in Cleveland is all that excited about Joe Flacco.
No.
No one is excited about Kenny Pickett. There's going to be some people who are excited about Dylan Gabriel coming from Oregon, throwing for 1 million yards like he did. And, that will be intriguing, but Shedeur is the name in that quarterback room now, and he's going to have the profile, and his father is going to loom large in this process just from a marketing PR standpoint. And so how that is all handled will be very, very interesting. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, because I liked him as a quarterback in Colorado, but I do think it is clear that maybe he, at least in terms of the talent evaluation process, he was a little overhyped. But he's going to get a chance there at some point. And what he does with it is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. And listen, there was a time not long ago when most NFL observers thought you had to play like Brady or Peyton Manning. Stay in the pocket, run the offense. Don't, only run when it's wide open. Let every route develop, as long as possible. And, there was a time when if you ever suggested somebody should take a running quarterback or a scrambling quarterback, you get shouted down by the mob who said, no, you got to be like Brady and Manning. Now we're at a point where most NFL teams want somebody who acts, looks, plays like Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. They want someone who's an athlete that they can mold. And Shedeur Sanders is just not that good an athlete. He's a good passer. He's not a great athlete.
Yeah, that's it right there, Jim. Like, that is, stereotypes are there. And I think that some people who didn't watch him play, some fans, just casual fans, would say, oh, you're getting Shedeur Sanders. Deion Sanders was maybe one of the very best athletes that's ever played the game. And so he must be this overwhelming athletic dude. He's not. Like, he is a drop back, throw the ball passer. He's not a create on the run. He's not a scrambler. He's not, kind of the RPO guy. Like, he is a traditional, more drop back passer. And there are many scouts would say that the arm strength is not there either. And so if you are going to be a drop back passer, you better either have a cannon or you better be able to process the game at an incredibly high level. So you're making quicker decisions and you're getting the ball out, and getting it on time. And we'll see about that for Shedeur, but we do know that he is not Lamar Jackson. He is not Josh Allen. He's not that kind of uber athlete that you might kind of think would come from the Sanders family.
No, that's exactly right. Good stuff. Also check out the John Krawczynski show on the Wolves playoff run. Great stuff on that show, and it's been a blast to cover that series. Again, you got Lavelle, Roy, and myself on baseball, Russo on hockey, Kevin Gorg on hockey, the Bardon Beauties on hockey, Mark Rosen's new show, which is doing great, Don Mitchell's show, Randy Shaver's high school football show will ramp up again this fall. We have some other new shows coming along. Check it all out at talknorth.com. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next week.